Do you believe life can change in a single second? Because if someone had told me that before, I would have laughed. But that's exactly what happened. It was just another October afternoon in New York. That light rain that seems to sow the sky to the ground. The sound of wet cars, hurried horns. And I, curled up inside my own world, weighed down by the days and in a rush to get home, walked into that coffee shop to escape the water that was already soaking through my coat. The door made that soft bell sound as it opened, and before I could even understand, he was there, sitting at the last table, leaning near the fogged-up window, a forgotten coffee cup in his hand, his gaze lost somewhere very, very far from there. And I swear, I felt it, in my chest, on my skin, in the air. A chill ran down my spine, as if I had been pulled into a story I didn't know I was about to live. I tried not to stare. Really, I tried. But there was something about him, something unspeakable, almost painful. The way the gray streetlight fell on his face, mixing shadows and mystery, as if he carried 1,000 secrets. I ordered my coffee, pretending everything was normal. But my body betrayed me. Trembling hands, a racing heart, a dry throat. And when I looked again, he was looking at me. Not a casual glance, not an accidental one. It was as if he saw me, truly, piercing through the skin, through defenses I didn't even know I had raised. Time stopped. I know it sounds cliché, but I swear, that's exactly how it felt. In another context, maybe it would have been just a beautiful look on a rainy afternoon. But the universe is cruel sometimes, because I saw the ring on his hand, shining discreetly, betraying the intensity of that look. He was married, and I knew I should have looked away, turned my back, forgotten. But instead, I smiled, an involuntary, shy, almost sad smile. And he smiled back, like someone who understands, like someone who already knows that, from that moment on, there's no turning back. I sat 2 tables away, far enough to be safe, close enough to be torture. As I waited for my coffee to cool in my hands, I could feel his presence pulsing in the room, like a song only I could hear. The smell of coffee, the sound of the rain outside, the muffled warmth of the cafe. Everything seemed complicit in what was silently happening between us. I closed my eyes for a second and thought, God, why? Why someone I can't have? But it was too late. Even without touch, without words, without even knowing his name, something inside me had already been stolen. I paid for my coffee, trying to keep my dignity. As I passed by his table to leave, I heard his low, hoarse voice. Careful with the rain. I just smiled, didn't dare look back. I knew. If I looked, it would be the end. I stepped out into the street, the rain hitting my face, blending with the tears I refused to acknowledge. And with every step away from him, a part of me stayed behind. Because sometimes, life really does change in a second. In a look, in a smile. And you never, ever return to who you were. I wish I could say I forgot that look, that afternoon got lost among so many others. But it would be a lie. The truth is, I started going back to that cafe, without realizing it, always at the same time, always with the absurd and silent hope of seeing him again. It was irrational, I knew. It was wrong. But my heart, my body, my soul, they seemed to act on their own. And he was there. On the 4th day, sitting at the same table, the same coffee in hand, the same lost look. When our eyes met this time, there was no rush to look away. There was no more innocence. He smiled, small, like someone sharing a secret. And I, God forgive me, smiled back. I sat at the counter, trying to pretend it was just a coincidence. That the chill in my hands, the heat climbing up my neck, the knot in my throat, were just silly imaginings. But then, he came closer. The woody scent of his cologne mixed with the strong aroma of coffee invaded my space, my body, my resistance. "Do you like rainy days?" he asked, in that low, intimate voice, as if we were continuing a conversation started lifetimes ago. I hesitated. For a second, reason screamed, begged, "Leave. Leave now." But I stayed. I think. "They suit people who carry storms inside them," I answered. He laughed, a muffled, sad laugh. And in that laugh, I knew. He too carried his own storm. We talked. About forgotten books. About old songs. About dreams we had abandoned without noticing. Neither of us mentioned what chained us, the ring on his finger, the abyss between what we felt and what was right. But with every word, every look, every shared silence, an invisible thread tied us tighter. The following days were a torturous dance. Rides under the rain, late-night messages, loaded with disguised confessions, lingering glances on busy street corners. One day, we were both in the cafe. The storm outside was brutal, lightning cutting across the sky, thunder shaking the windows. Inside, the world seemed made just of us two. He reached out, almost innocently, to pick up the napkin I had dropped. Our fingers touched. For an instant, just a second, time froze. The heat of his skin against mine burned like fire. My legs went weak. My heart felt like it would burst from my chest. He released the napkin slowly, as if fighting that touch had cost him everything. And then, in a whisper only I could hear, "If I had met you before, everything would be different." I wanted to cry. I wanted to scream. I wanted to hold him and say that even now everything could change. But I just smiled, with the pain tearing me apart inside. Because we knew. We knew this wasn't just a silly crush. It was something too big, too strong, and deeply wrong. That night when I left, he walked me to the door. The rain was falling mercilessly. The street seemed empty, as if the whole world had disappeared, leaving only the two of us. He stopped on the sidewalk, so close I could feel his body's heat even without touching. His eyes burned into mine, as if saying everything we could never speak aloud. My breath caught. My hands trembled, and it was there that I knew. If he kissed me, if he crossed that fragile line that still protected us, I would not resist. I would lose him. I would lose myself. But my God, in that moment, losing myself seemed like the only salvation. I don't know how long we stood there, frozen in the rain. Maybe seconds, maybe a lifetime. The world around us seemed suspended, as if God, in his infinite cruelty, had given us that moment out of time, just to show how impossible it would be to truly have it. He took a step forward, so close now that I could feel his breath mixing with mine. Our eyes locked, like castaways about to drown for good. And I saw in his eyes what was already burning inside me: fear, guilt, desire. That silent battle between what was right and what was inevitable. He raised his hand, slowly, as if struggling against every muscle in his body. He touched my face with his fingers, tracing an invisible path on my skin. I closed my eyes. His touch was light, almost non-existent, but my whole body reacted as if it were an explosion. I knew what was coming. The kiss that would destroy all barriers. The moment that would change everything. Forever. But then, he stopped. We stood there, so close, so miserably close. His forehead resting against mine, his heart pounding hard against my chest. and in a broken whisper he said, "I can't." "I know," I replied, not opening my eyes. "Neither can I." The pain of that realization was physical, a cold blade slicing through the center of my being. I wanted to hate him. I wanted to hate myself. I wanted to erase that love that should never have been born. But love, this absurd love, was already bigger than the two of us. He stepped back. Then another step, each inch hurting more than any goodbye I had ever lived. "I wish it had been you," he said, before turning and disappearing into the rain. I stood there, alone, my face still warm from the touch that barely existed, my chest hollow from what never was but hurt as if it had been everything. The following days were a sequence of silences. I went back to that cafe more times than I care to admit. I stared at the empty table and felt a tightening in my chest that didn't seem to fit inside me. He never came back, and I couldn't stay either. Life went on, as it always does, cruelly indifferent to the silent tragedies inside us. But the truth is, I was never the same again. Some loves, even if never lived, leave deep scars. Some glances, even fleeting, change the entire course of our story. And some encounters, even impossible, are eternal. Today, sometimes, when the rain falls in New York and I pass by the door of that coffee shop, I still feel it. The ghost of that love brushes against me like a cold wind on the back of my neck. And I smile. Because despite the pain, despite the impossibility, I was loved. Even if it was only for a second. Even if it was only in secret. And you? Have you ever loved someone you could never have? If this story touched your heart, share it in the comments. Let's build a space where our secrets have a voice,